Today I am feeling like the sun is shining. I'm ready for spring. I know it's a little ways away, but we're gonna work on 3 really cute spring themed crafts today. I'm taking a break from my son's room renovation and I'm going to jump in my craft room and just really have some fun and make some of these springtime crafts and just get them ready to go for when it really is springtime outside. I hope you guys find inspiration in these projects today. If you do, I would love it if you're not already subscribed to hit that subscribe button. And then if you want to see more videos from me, including my son's redo of his room, make sure you hit that bell and click all so that way YouTube will let you know when I post new videos. So I'm excited, you guys. Let's get in that craft room and let's get crafting.
First, let me start by apologizing. I don't know what happened, but some of these projects are recorded a little wonky. But let's get into project number 1. So I am using this little square with a rectangle plant holder from the Dollar Tree, as well as the heart wooden pallet sign. I just took apart that square with the cute little truck on the front and the heart in the back of the truck, and I'm using wood glue and a combination with the hot glue so that we can get an instant hold, but then the wood glue will help keep it held together longer. Now, I did take apart that base of the hanging sign so that I could make sure I had that secured on there. Now, I am going to use the paint to just kind of hold that down and make sure that it is secured, and move on to the little base that has that little truck on it. Now, you guys, I did not do a real great job of recording this video. I'm not quite sure what happened, but you'll get the gist of it. I'm using the Waverly celery color, and I'm going to just paint the outside edge of this wood piece. And I just want to make sure that I'm getting all the little edges and on the back, the sides, and on the top, anything that I think might show, I want to make sure gets covered. And I did only do 1 coat of this celery color, so it covered it really, really well, but use whatever color you want. Now, this does have a heart on it, but I am not going with traditional Valentine's colors. Now, you'll see here I am adding a little bit of hot glue on the inside of that panel. I just wanted to make sure it stayed together because it was just held together with I think I don't know how to describe it other than just little wood cutout pieces that just fit together like a puzzle. So I'm using the Waverly's antiquing wax and a baby wipe, and I am basically staining this wood with that. I love the way that this works, and I did that square part of the hanging sign, and then I'm also doing the whole heart. So that is part of why I wanted to make sure that I took the triangle off of that square, because I just really wanted to make sure that I could get that stained all the way down in there instead of just trying to fit in. Now, I'm taking the Waverly white chalk paint. Now, you'll see right here, guys, I got way too much of that white on there. I was wanting to do like a dry brush on there. So you'll see I just took my baby wipe and wiped some of it off, and then just grabbed some more of that antiquing wax and just went over it. Sometimes we all screw up when we're crafting. It's okay. There are ways to fix these things. So I just went and made sure that I'm doing a little bit less on my brush to do that dry brush just on the edges of this heart. And the next step I'm going to do is I am going to grab that celery color, and I'm going to use it on the next palette, I guess, the next board down. And so I just added it on the edges there. And then I'm going to also add it to the tip of that square piece that lines up with the board that has that on there. And then I'm going to switch over and go one shade darker and go with the Waverly Moss color and do that bottom board as well as the bottom of the square that's going to be the planter. And so it ends up giving it almost an ombre look, which is super, super cute. And then now that the celery is dry, I am taking that moss color and I'm going to paint all around that little truck. And you guys, I did not get great footage of this, but as you can see, you just have to be really careful. But that truck is raised up a little bit, so that does help you avoid getting too much on it. And then I didn't like the raw wood that was on the little boards that were holding the palette heart portion together. And so I did that same Waverly antiquing wax on there and then the baby wipe to wipe off any of the extra. So now it looks cohesive, which I love. And so I'm going to just add a little bit of that combination of wood glue and some hot glue on the open slats of that square where it will hold on to the triangle. It's really hard to explain it. I know it's probably very confusing, but it's almost like they're puzzle pieces and they just kind of slip together. So I'm holding those together with those two glues and then just kind of getting rid of any of the stuff that just kind of oozed out a little bit. Now the next thing I did was I took a furniture or a flooring marker from the Dollar Tree. You can get this at the Dollar Tree. And I was basically going to use it as a stain on this truck. And it comes from the Dollar Tree in 3 different wood colors. This is the darkest of them. And I ended up doing pretty much the whole truck and not the heart. And you'll see I take a baby wipe because I really don't like how dark it is. I thought it would be closer to the antiquing wax color, and it just really isn't. There's too much red in that. So I decided to go ahead and go back to the Waverly white, and now I'm doing a heavy like dry brush over that truck to kind of just tone it back down because I just really did not like that staining that I did on there. And so I just did a dry brush of the white over it. I think it kind of toned it down, made it much, much better. And then I decided to color my truck in. So I am taking the celery and a small paintbrush, and I'm going to go in and just highlight the truck itself in that celery color, just trying to get the truck but not all the details of the truck, if that makes any sense. I worked to try to make sure that the wheels didn't get covered and the window and things like that. And then I took the moss green color and I went over that heart that was still the raw wood. And then because I did have a little bit of that staining still around the edges of the heart, I continued with that and just touched it up just a little bit with that marker. And then I did the truck bed in that marker and then the wheels. I know that brown wheels sound a little weird, but I didn't really want to bust out the black paint or a black marker. So I just went with brown because I figured it really kind of fit in. And then I did just little details, the steering wheel and the door handle and such. Now, between every step, for the most part, I did use my quick drying tool to give it just a little bit of extra help drying real fast, and so I could get this project done as quick as possible. Now, these beads I got from Walmart. They were in the Christmas section. I actually got them to use as a Christmas decoration and never got to them this year, so I figured, well, I might as well use them. These are my house colors, and really my favorite colors, so this is going to work out perfectly. So I just measured out some jute twine and figured out what size I thought I needed, and now I'm going to just tie that through the hole that was already there. This Dollar Tree sign should have come with jute twine already, but it actually was missing that part, which wasn't a big deal because jute is so inexpensive, and I figured I could just replace it. So I just did a double knot on there, and then I'm going to take my hot glue and secure that tie with the hot glue. Okay, the next step is going to be to add those colored wood beads on there. So some of them are white, some of them are that natural color, and then some of them are almost like a mix between the celery and the moss color. So they're just a really pretty green color. So I just added those on there, and now I'm going to go ahead and tie off this other side through that hole, and then I'll be adding the hot glue to the back as well. I find that that helps keep your jute twine from unwinding itself as it gets moved around. The hot glue just kind of secures that in place, and I like that extra security. Snipping off that extra little bit there, and the next step is going to be to add in the floral foam, and I did take that extra little piece of the paper there to protect my surface a little bit better, and so I'm just kind of cutting a little wedge off of this just by using my scissors to cut through like a knife. And that way I just get this little sliver of the floral foam, and then I'm going to just take this little spatula that I got from the Dollar Tree as well. It's almost like a Cricut tool, and I just scraped off a little bit of that uneven surface. So adding a little bit of hot glue into that triangle section there so that I can secure down the floral foam. And here comes all the greenery. I'm going to just grab a whole bunch of different greenery stems and just kind of go through and look and see what I think fits. I just really want this to look very spring, not necessarily Valentine's or any real theme to it, just outside of just fresh and spring. And so I just went through and decided what I wanted and cut the different greenery pieces apart. Now, these first two pieces are from the Christmas section of Hobby Lobby. I think I just kind of grabbed after season, and there are a few here and there from the new Dollar Tree spring florals in there. That's the lighter colors there that I'm using. And then I also have some frosted, I guess, berries. That's what I'm using right here. And that is left over from the Hobby Lobby Christmas florals as well. But all of this kind of fits into that neutral greens. And I thought it really spoke to the area I live in, as well as just the beautiful fresh greens that we see in the springtime. Now you'll see these have little yellow flowers. I hope you can see those, which they almost speak of a neutral green, almost like a chartreuse color. And I thought that still fit within that cute green natural colors. And so I'm just using a little tool and kind of poking into the moss to help make sure that everything kind of secures down in there. And you guys just look at it, see what fits your liking, adjust things as you go along. Now, I don't know if you've seen these, but the Dollar Tree has these really cute foam roses out right now for Valentine's. And I just thought that the white cream color ones were so cute. So I just took the leftover stems from one of those greenery stems and cut a few pieces off. And I'm just poking into those foam roses, and now I'm just going to add those in. Again, it's really pretty with the greenery, and it's, kind of adds that floral touch to it, but doesn't have to necessarily add a theme or a color to it, because they are that really soft white color. And I love the added touch that this adds to it. Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys think. Did you guys see that heart and that square piece and think of adding those together? I just thought that was such a cute combination. And so here's project number 2, you guys. Now, there have been several people who have done this as well. I cannot give credit because I just watch so many different creators, but I saw this and had to try it out for myself. So I grabbed one of those palette signs, or palettes, I guess, little mini palettes from the DollarTree Crafter Square, and one of their little crates. And then I was going to do wooden dowels, but I could not find any. Couldn't find what I have in my stash. And so I grabbed a package of the paper straws. And so now I'm going to use that celery Waverly color, and I'm going to give both the rectangular palette and the crate one coat of that celery color, and just make sure that you're drying or allowing time for your project to dry between different coats. I took some sandpaper and sanded the edges of both of those wooden pieces, and now I'm going to take that Waverly Moss color. It's just a little bit darker, and I wanted to do a dry brushing over the celery color on both of the wooden surfaces around all the different sides. And then I'm going to let that dry as well. Now, when you go to the store, there are different containers that they have, or I should say different wood surfaces that they have at the Dollar Tree. So if you want to recreate this, just when you're buying these items, make sure you hold them up next to each other and make sure that they align. And then now I'm going to take that Waverly white, and again, doing a dry brushing technique and just kind of going over and adding to both of these wooden pieces. I think this is such a cute color combination. Again, it matches the colors of my home. It doesn't really have to scream Valentine's Day or any specific holiday. I just thought this would be such a cute project to add to my home decor this spring season. And so I am going in different directions with that white and adding it to both of those. And then again, drawing between the different coats before I go ahead and do another little sanding on both of these pieces again and exposing just a little bit of the raw wood, sanding in spots that I thought maybe had a little bit too heavy-handed of a particular color. Now I'm using a baby wipe and the antiquing wax, and I am going through and just adding it onto those paper straws. I just didn't like how bright and bright and springy the color on the straws were. I thought they needed to be a little bit more muted down, and so I did decide to use that antiquing wax on there. Now I am using like the poker tool that I did get from the DollarTree to hold those up because as you know, the antiquing wax takes a little bit of time to dry. So it was rubbing off of those straws. And then I'm taking the antiquing wax and I'm going all around the edges of both of those wood pieces as well. And then I'm going to be doing the whole inside of that little mini crate. And I wanted to make sure I also paid attention to the holes where the handles, I guess, would be on that little mini crate. So just adding it and making sure that everything has that finished look to it. And sorry guys that I'm a little bit out of screen for some of this video. Again, like I said at the beginning of this video, I just really don't know what was going on. Thought I had it all set up great when I hit record. So don't know really what's going on there, but if you use a baby wipe when you're using that antiquing wax, it does really help to get that wax to glide around pretty nice on your projects. In the past, I've done a painting brush and then gone back and wiped away the extra, and that works just fine as well. But this is kind of like an all-in-one step, which I kind of really love. So I love the fact that you can watch other YouTubers and crafters out there and get all the tips and tricks. And like I said, this was a cute project I saw another crafter make, and I would love to give them the credit, but I just don't remember who it was. So now I'm going to take those paper straws, and 2 of them I'm going to cut about 1 inch off of them. So 2 are going to be the original length, and 2 of them are going to be about 1 inch shorter. And with hot glue, I'm just going to attach those paper straws to the inside corners of that crate. Now you want to just make sure that you are attaching the same size to the long sides of each corner. I hope you can see what I'm doing here, and just make sure that they match up. And then I did go back in with my hot glue and I ran an extra bead on both sides of the straws, because just putting the glue in the corner of that, I just wasn't sure if that was enough to really hold those steady. And with it being the wax on the outside, even though it's dry, I also was not sure how that would hold up. So I just put a little bit of extra hot glue, a bead on each side of that straw, And I'm going to do that to all 4 of these straws as I go along. Now I'm going to turn this crate over, and I'm going to do the same step but just with the longer of the 4 straws here. And again, adding those extra beads of the hot glue on there. And now that those are dry and in place, now we can put the top of our cute little stand here, and it fits so perfect. So you just want to make sure that you have it lined up really well. And it's really nice because that little palette has where the connecting boards are lined up perfect for those straws to just glue right up against those. So that helped really secure it really nice and be able to line it up. So once you add the hot glue to the 2 sides, give it a second to dry. Then I'm going to just rotate it around and add some hot glue to the other 2. And you'll see I'm kind of holding it in place for a second and pulling off all those glue stringers. Oh my goodness. I feel like sometimes the hot glue just wants to make spider webs. And so after we put these little things in place, our cute little stand will be mostly complete. And now comes the fun part of getting to embellish. And as you can see, by cutting off that little inch and having the 2 different sizes, it does make a slanted roof, which is really cute and what you would expect to see at a little stand. Now I am using a chalk marker from Chalkator. I love this chalk marker, you guys. It writes so nice, and it is erasable, which is great. And so I'm just going to write on this little clothespin chalkboard, kisses, 5 cents. I know it's a little hard probably for you all to see, but it's so cute. And so kisses, 5 cents, and this is a DollarTree chalkboard. It is in the Crafter Square section. So I'm just going to take that, and that's going to go right on to this little stand. And now I am working on adding another little embellishment here. So I'm taking some jute twine, and I kind of just eyeballed how much I thought I needed, and I'm tying a knot on both ends, and that's going to help me kind of have a little bit of meat to secure it to the stand. The next step, I took this very thin fabric. I got this from a scarf that I'm using in a different DIY in this video. And I just had this little extra piece left over, so I just folded it on itself a couple of times. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut it into a triangle. And it actually will be a diamond shape because it is folded. And I wanted to be able to add hot glue and fold it over it on itself with that jute cord between it, so it will make a cute little pendant banner. And you could really do this with scrapbook paper. You could do it with just fabric. It would be really cute with some, oh my goodness, just all kinds of different things. Some yarn could be cute tied up on there, pom-poms. And even burlap would be really cute on here. It's just really what you want to use to embellish. You probably could even find some stickers that would be really cute on there. But what I just am doing, I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of hot glue right there in the center, and then just folding over the one half of the triangle onto the other. Now, I didn't like the way that the coloring on the first center was, so I did have that extra little piece, and so I just added it over the top of the original, and now it is a little bit more to my liking. And I'm going to take my scissors, and I know it's off screen, you guys, I'm so sorry, but and I'm just kind of trimming those up and making sure that I'm happy with the shape of the triangle on there. Now I'm going to try to figure out where I want to place this little pendant. Do I want it down on the bottom? Do I want to put it up top? Either placement would have been super cute, but ultimately I decided that I really wanted it down on the bottom. So I'm just going to add some hot glue to that center pendant, and I'm going to attach that first, and then I went over to the corners and I put a little bead of hot glue over there so I could attach the little knot that I tied at the end of the jute. And just like that, it is, my little pendant banner is up and looking super cute. I'm going to add my kisses sign now. And then the next step is just to add in the cute little kisses. Now, I did get these from the DollarTree just because when I was planning this project out, I just was one-stop shopping and wanted to get it all done. But you definitely probably could get more kisses if you went to a bigger store and maybe even got some at, like Costco or something. But look at how cute this turned out, you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have made this more Valentine's, or do you love it the way it is? And by the way, I would love it if you guys would subscribe so you guys can see more of what I have going on. But here comes project number 3. Now, from the DollarTree, I got these plastic hearts. Now, these are made to hang up, and they are pretty clear. You can see through them for sure. And they are a really fun red color. I went ahead and I took them apart, split them in half. And now I'm just going to add that white chalk paint from Waverly. And I want to make sure I get the little hook and loop that is for the tying portion of each of these hearts. And you'll notice that when I am painting, I'm kind of doing like a pouncing motion. If you just take your paint and you just run it like you normally paint, it's going to just leave streaks. It's not going to give real solid coverage. So I find that when I'm really trying to either get texture or get good coverage, the pouncing motion really is the way to go on here. Now, I am really just wanting to make sure that I am covering up that red. I just felt that if I went straight to a solid color on these hearts, that eventually they were just not going to have the coverage that I needed. So you definitely want to dry these, or allow these to dry between coats. And once I had the first section of each of the hearts dried, I went back and made sure that I finished up putting the white over all the extra little bits that needed that coverage. So I made a total of, I believe it's 8 hearts, and I end up using 7 just because I really wanted an off number. But I did the same thing to all of them, and the extra one I ended up using in a different section of my home decor. But I am taking some of this chalk paint, and I am adding it to some baking soda. And what that's going to do is it's going to thicken up this chalk paint even more than it already is. And I'm doing this because I kind of want it to have almost like a thin concrete look to it. It's a really cool texture, and I've never really done this before, but I've seen it a lot of times and I wanted to try it out. So definitely a trial and error, but I love the way it comes out in the end, you guys. So I'm stirring that chalk paint together with the baking soda, and I really was not 100% sure how much to add of each. I think you really could do almost a 1-to-1 ratio and then kind of see. So I just keep adding a little bit more of the baking soda until I feel like it's the thickness that I wanted. Now, this green color, I believe it's emerald. I ended up doing this one thicker than the other two colors that I do. And so the other two, I just felt like the texture didn't need to be as thick, so I didn't add as much of the baking soda. But no matter how much you do, you just really cannot go wrong with this. But it was pretty thick, and so when I add it to these hearts, what I'm gonna do is do the same like pouncing motion, but in the end I end up kind of smearing it on first and getting the coverage that I really wanted and even it out, and then I went back and did the pouncing to kind of help even out the texture and all of that. And so I did 2 of them, well, 4 altogether no, actually I do 6 altogether, so that it makes 3 complete hearts in the emerald color. And again, drying between coats, and then once it's dry, going ahead and completing the rest of the hearts with that same color. And so you can see why if I didn't add the white, this dark color probably would have been just fine because it is so dark, and there's so much pigment in this emerald color. But if you add other colors that were lighter, I was afraid the red would show through. Now, I think these hearts were made to maybe hold on to cutie little like gifts or something, maybe candies or something. But so I'm taking right now the poking tool that you can get in the Crafter Square right now. It's kind of like a Cricut tool for weeding, but and I'm just kind of scraping along the edges because these do have 2 different parts. One is a what do I want to say? One is kind of a an out and one is an in, so that they sandwich together. And so I want to make sure that there's not any glue or any of the paint that is in the way of those closing together the way that they were intended. And now that those are glued together, I'm taking the paint mixture that I made and I'm going right around on those seams, and I'm trying to make those seams disappear, which I think it does a pretty good job because of all the texture on there. So now it looks like it is going to just be a solid 3D heart, which with the texture on there, it looks like it is concrete that's been painted or colored concrete. It's such a cool effect, you guys. If you've never tried this technique, I would highly suggest it. So I ended up doing 3 more of those hearts in a bluish color, and then 2 of them in just a plain white. And now I'm going through with that poking tool, and I am making sure that those holes that hold that you hang up these hearts are clear of all that paint and such, so that they can be hung up. And so I'm just kind of poking out all the extra out of those holes and getting them ready for their hangers. And I'm going to just use some jute twine that I had on hand. And so these came from, those little wooden hanging ornaments, I guess, from the Dollar Tree. Well, when I use those, sometimes I don't always use the hangers that come with them. Sometimes I use baker's twine or something like that, and I never throw those away. So I had some on hand, and I'm using that poking tool to help feed them through the hole, and then I'm just going to pull them through and make sure they're held in real good, and then I'm going to tie a knot right at the top of that jute twine, and I'm going to do that to all of them. And then I'm going to grab this scarf from the Dollar Tree. This is the one that I used before. Now this is in the little section where the St. Patrick's Day supplies are, and I'm just folding this over on itself a few times, and it is pretty thin, so it's really easy to work with. And I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and cut that into strips. Now you could do this with a regular fabric, you could do it with yarn, you could also use burlap. There really is no right or wrong. You could do it with even some really cute ribbon. I've done it before, and that's really fun. But I saw this scarf, and I thought it was just the perfect colors for my home. And so I just decided to give this a go. And so I'm just going to cut them in strips. It's not a big deal if the strips aren't all the same exact size. None of that really applies. And then I took this really funky yarn that I have. It's pretty thin, but it's got a whole lot of little wispy pieces to it, which I think is just really fun. And I have some plug-in lights from the Dollar Tree. And so I decided that this would be really cute to kind of add together. And so I'm kind of measuring out how much I need of the yarn to go with the light strand. And then I'm going to start taking that ribbon, and I'm going to start tying those that yarn to the light strand, just using the loop over and pulling it through method. Now I am cutting off the little edges of the fabric from the scarf because it does have a little sewn edge. And you can leave that on if you'd like to, but I thought it was just not really needed to be there. I like the wispy look of it not there, so I just cut those off. But I'm just tying those little strips onto the lights, and that is all I'm going to do to the light strand to attach this together. I really liked the idea of this because now I don't have to worry about this being a total permanent thing. I can always untie everything. Nothing's glued, nothing's being affected. So I use that little chalkboard as a center marker. I just folded the light strand on top of itself to find the center point. And now I'm going to use some more jute twine and I'm going to thread it through the hanger of each of the hearts, and then I'm going to tie that around the light strand, and then I'm just going to tie it in a cute little shoelace bow, and that's going to be it for this. I did let each heart had 2 little lights between them, and then I went ahead and added the next heart, and that way there was a little bit of space between the hearts, and that's all I'm going to do to this. Now this would be so cute hanging on a mantle. It's going to actually go over my coffee bar area, which is coming up in a clean and decorate with me video here soon. But I think this really could go for really anything. I love these little garlands, and these hearts turned out so cute. Very spring. It could be Valentine's, but it also could be St. Patrick's Day, you guys. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of this one? And I thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear which of these projects was your favorite.